Let me tell you something right now. Cutting off all communication with a narcissist is one of the most difficult and courageous decisions you will ever make in your life. And if you're here listening to this, it means you have either already taken that step or you're seriously considering it. But here's the truth you need to understand. Just because you are done with them does not mean they are done with you. In reality, the moment you go quiet is the exact moment their real game begins. Because narcissists don't simply walk away and accept it. Absolutely not. They plan, they scheme, they calculate, and they wait for the perfect moment. They are not staying silent out of respect for your boundaries. They are not leaving you alone because they've genuinely moved on. They are quiet because they're analyzing their next move. And today, I'm pulling back the curtain for you. I'm revealing the 7 hidden things a narcissist quietly wants from you when you go no contact. Not the obvious drama, not the surface level stuff. I'm talking about the deeper motives, the silent expectations, the things they hope you'll do, the reactions they're waiting to see, and why your silence is not peace to them. It's pressure, it's power, it's threat. So if you've ever doubted your choice, if you've ever wondered why you still feel like they have some emotional pull over you, stay right here, because by the time you finish this, their entire strategy will make perfect sense, and even better, you'll know exactly how to stay ahead of it and win. When you go no contact with a narcissist, it triggers something inside of them. It might not be a loud argument or an open fight. Sometimes it's tiny, a post, a like, a story view, a quick message, a random emoji, something small that reminds you they're still watching. Because when you go silent, they don't see that as closure. They see it as a challenge, a test of control. And believe me, they are watching closely. They monitor every move you make, even when it seems like they have erased you. Why? Because your silence isn't silence to them. It's a direct threat to the control they use to hold over you. Narcissists survive off attention. It doesn't matter if it's love, anger, arguments, or heartbreak. It's all fuel for them. When you cut communication, it's like you shut off their oxygen. That quiet that gives you peace completely overwhelms them. It frustrates them, confuses them, makes them question their influence. They can't stand the idea that you might be okay without them. And what they hate even more is imagining that you might actually be happier. So what do? They poke at you. At first, it's subtle. They might view your story but not say a word. They might suddenly post something that sounds suspiciously directed at you. They might ask mutual friends about you. They might leave a random comment on an old post of yours, hoping it triggers you. Every bit of this is bait. They want a reaction, any reaction, because any emotional response proves that you're still in the psychological game, even if you think you're out of it. And this is where things get dangerous. Narcissists know your patterns. They know what bothers you. They know what pulls your emotions. If they can't make you talk, they'll settle for making you feel something. If they can't drag you back physically, they'll settle for living inside your mind. They want you replaying arguments. They want you checking their page to see if they've moved on. They want you wondering why they posted something. They want you confused or angry, because any emotional energy from you, even the kind you never express, feeds them. They don't need a message from you. They just need to know you still care. And if you still care, that means they still have control. The moment you react even a little, posting something emotional, liking something you normally wouldn't, writing a quote that sounds hurt, they know the door isn't fully closed. And if the door isn't closed, they think they can walk back in whenever they want. Now let's talk about the deeper mind games they play when you go silent. Sometimes they'll disappear completely on purpose, And they do it hoping you'll start questioning everything. Why aren't they trying to contact me? Did they get over me that fast? Were they pretending the whole time? That silence is intentional. It's not peace, it's provocation. They use their absence as a tool to make you uneasy, to make you doubt your decision. They want you confused enough that you break no contact first. Because the very second you text them, the moment you reach out, the game resets. They win back control. They don't just want a reaction, they expect one. They truly believe you can't hold out, that you'll get emotional, second guess yourself, and return eventually. And if they can't get to you directly, they'll use indirect tactics. They'll post vague messages that imply they've been hurt. They'll show off a new partner suddenly. They'll spread half-truths through mutual connections. Not because they have moved on, but because they want to keep you emotionally tied. They want you watching. They want you feeling something, because feelings mean attention, and attention means power. Everything they do during no contact is calculated. None of it is genuine progress. It's pure manipulation. They're not moving forward. They're trying to pull you backward. They want you stuck in the same exhausting cycle they created. They want to make sure that even when you're silent, they still hold space in your mind. But every quiet day that passes, you regain a piece of your strength. When a narcissist loses access to you, they don't suddenly become aware of their actions. They don't suddenly feel remorse. What they do is twist your silence into guilt. They want to use it as a mirror to make you doubt yourself. They crave your guilt, your uncertainty, your emotional confusion. They know guilt is one of the strongest chains humans carry. And if they can no longer manipulate you directly, they'll try to take up residence inside your thoughts. To them, your silence isn't rejection, it's humiliation. It bruises their ego in a way they can't handle. But instead of facing that truth, they flip the story. Suddenly, you're the cold one. You're the one who abandoned them. You're the one who didn't try. You become the villain in the story they tell themselves and others. This reversal is extremely powerful because it makes you question your own reality. You start revisiting every argument, every conversation, every moment, wondering what you missed. And that's exactly what they want. They want you drowning in doubt, confused enough to forget why you left in the first place. They want you remembering only the charm, the good moments, the laughter. They want you to minimize the pain and justify their behavior. They want you thinking you were overreacting, that maybe you were too sensitive, that maybe you gave up too early. That lingering doubt is their doorway. If they can plant even a single seed of guilt or uncertainty, they know it's only a matter of time before you feel like reaching out. Narcissists are masters at weaponizing your empathy against you. That's why they targeted you initially. Your compassion, your loyalty, your depth, everything they lack. When they can no longer guilt you into returning, they guilt you for leaving. They act broken, abandoned, misunderstood. They play the victim. Maybe not to you directly, but through mutual circles, through posts that tug at your heart, through subtle silence that feels heavy. It's manipulation without direct communication. And it works especially when you're still healing, because for a kind-hearted person, the feeling of guilt can be overwhelming. They know that. They use it. They don't want your love. They want your emotional energy. They want your mental turmoil, the tension you feel late at night when you wonder if you were too harsh. That's their goal. They hand you their emotional chaos and stand back to watch if you'll try to fix it. They don't want peace. They want confusion. They want to make your strength feel like cruelty, your distance feel like betrayal. And when guilt grows, it doesn't whisper, it shouts. And narcissists know how to make that shout echo until it fills your entire mind. Even without communication, they crave control. They want to live in your thoughts. They want your obsession. Not the type where you chase them physically, but the kind where your mind keeps replaying what happened. They want you wondering how things could have gone differently. They want you thinking about what they are doing now, because if they still occupy your mind, they still matter. And for them, disappearing from someone's thoughts is the worst kind of defeat. When you catch yourself replaying arguments, imagining conversations, thinking about how they might respond, that's them still pulling the strings they installed while you were with them. They built those loops intentionally. They conditioned you to question yourself, to hope things could improve, to fix what wasn't yours to fix. But every time you resist the urge to reach out, you break that conditioning. You weaken it. Slowly, you replace their voice with your own. You stop asking, "What if they change?" and start thinking, "I deserve peace." That moment, that internal shift, is where your true power starts. Because narcissists can only survive where emotional chaos exists. The more peace you choose, the less oxygen they have. The quieter you stay, the more invisible their control becomes. Your distance isn't weakness, it's healing. It's the end of their illusion and the beginning of your freedom. Obsessing over their mixed signals, trying to interpret their cryptic posts, checking their social media, all of that is energy. And narcissists love knowing they still have a hold on you without lifting a finger. To them, it shows the bond isn't broken, it's just transformed. They don't need to speak to you when they've already secured space inside your mind. This is why narcissists end relationships in chaos. They never give real closure. They never take accountability. They never clarify. Instead, they ghost. They withdraw. They create confusion because confusion leads to fixation. The human mind hates unanswered questions. It tries to resolve them. So when someone vanishes without explanation or flips the narrative at the last moment, your mind races to fill in the gaps. And that mental spiral keeps you emotionally attached even without communication. And they count on that. Sometimes they leave breadcrumbs before disappearing. Maybe they talked about a future with you. Maybe they apologized just enough to keep you unsure. Maybe they said they needed time to think. Those are not innocent comments. They are intentional hooks designed to keep you wondering, thinking, hoping, and every minute you stay mentally stuck becomes supply for them. Even their silence is strategic. By staying quiet, they let your mind run wild. They let your imagination create stories. And all of that mental energy becomes proof in their mind that they still have influence. They may not text you, but they'll post something suggestive, a quote about healing, a picture that implies they're thriving, a caption that seems aimed at you. None of that is random. It's all part of their silent strategy to keep you emotionally spinning. Because emotional spinning is power for them. They want your healing delayed. They want your confidence shaken. They want your sense of self tied to their acknowledgement. They want their memory to interrupt your peace. Because if they still live in your thoughts, they still matter. They can survive without your presence as long as they have your worry, your frustration, your confusion. This is why detaching from a narcissist isn't just about blocking them. It's about reclaiming your inner world, your emotional space, your thoughts. As long as they occupy mental space, they don't need physical access. They built a version of themselves in your mind that replays past moments, analyzes tiny details, and questions everything. The worst part is you may think that replaying these memories is part of healing. But to the narcissist, that replay is delayed fuel. It feeds their ego, even silently. So even when there's no contact, the game continues. Not through messages, but through the emotional residue they've left behind. They count on you to revisit it over and over, because staying unforgettable, even through pain, gives them power. When a narcissist faces no contact, they don't see it as a boundary. They see it as a pause, a break before the next round. They do not genuinely believe you're gone. Deep down, they assume you'll return someday, maybe not soon, but eventually. They count on it because their entire relationship with you was built on cycles: love bombing, devaluation, chaos, apologies without change. They conditioned your emotions to crave their validation, to fear losing them, to hope they would eventually become the person they pretended to be. So when you finally walk away, they don't panic because they think their influence is permanent. They believe you'll break first. They believe you'll miss them. They know exactly what stirs your guilt, what makes you doubt yourself, and what you still hope might happen. They shaped a version of themselves in your memory that is almost impossible to completely hate, even after everything. So when you leave, they don't think the story is over. They think you're emotional. They think you're overwhelmed. They assume once the intensity settles, you'll reach out. That's why many narcissists don't rush to reconnect. It's not because they've healed or moved forward. It's because they're watching, calculating, waiting, testing your strength, studying how long you last before you crumble. If you do reach out, even once, they interpret that as confirmation of ownership, not love, ownership, proof that they still hold a piece of you. They also rely heavily on time. They wait for your anger to fade. They wait for your clarity to blur. They wait for your memory to soften. They know nostalgia works like magic. With time, painful memories fade faster than good ones. You might forget the anxiety, the manipulation, the exhaustion. You might remember only the charm and the highs. They rely on this psychological effect to reopen the cycle later. If they sense you're healing, they send a small message, a song, a photo, a memory, a thinking of you. None of this is genuine. It is bait, perfectly timed to hit at the moment you're most vulnerable. The hardest part of no contact is not silence. It's releasing the illusion. The fantasy that one day they'll wake up and realize your worth, that they'll finally treat you right, that they'll apologize, mean it, and change. Narcissists know this fantasy lives inside you. They rely on it, they use it as a silent leash. That is why they don't chase you immediately. They don't think they have to. In their mind, you'll eventually do the chasing. When they lose direct access to you, they shift their strategy. One of the first things they do is try to take control of the narrative, not to win admiration, but to win manipulation. When communication stops, they know they can't influence you directly, so they go through other channels, mutual friends, online posts, shared communities. They begin telling their version of the story before you can tell yours. They plant seeds of doubt. They'll say things like, "I don't know why they changed so suddenly," or "I tried everything but they pushed me away," or "I loved them but they just shut me out." These comments seem harmless but are deeply manipulative. They make you appear irrational or cold while they appear wounded and innocent, because narcissists usually appear charming to outsiders. And because no one saw the private chaos, people believe them. To the outside world, they seem hurt, misunderstood, maybe even heartbroken. Meanwhile, you become the distant, unreasonable one. Image is everything to them. Being exposed is their biggest fear. So when you go no contact, it's not just losing access, it's losing control of how the story is told. You leaving creates an empty space they rush to fill with lies. They cannot tolerate the idea that someone might hear your truth, so they rewrite the story quickly. In their version, you're the problem, you're the heartbreaker, you're the unpredictable one. Sometimes they don't need to say anything directly. They simply post quotes about betrayal, healing, or toxicity. They time these posts so it looks like they're recovering from someone like you. It's all performance, but it works because no one else saw what happened behind closed doors. No one else witnessed the manipulation, the silent punishments, the emotional chaos. They only see the curated image the narcissist presents. And this is why protecting your peace is not just about blocking them. It's about refusing to defend yourself to people who only know the mask. Your silence is power when it's intentional. Detachment is victory when it's chosen. And the moment you stop trying to explain yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you, something inside you finally begins to heal.